Pickaxe.
Hello, and welcome to the Chance Encounters podcast. We've been operating board game cafes around the UK for about 6 years now. From first dates to last dates, from hen do's to family do's, we've seen it all and recommended a board game for it. And now we're looking for a fresh challenge. Each week we'll be inviting a guest to put our board game knowledge to the test. It'll be up to us to figure out what their absurd and abstract scenario calls for and recommend a game that will totally topple their twister. Whichever recommendation our guest loves the most will score a point, and whoever has the most points at the end of the season will be crowned the Titan of board games.
Ooh.
So we've had one Titan of board games already, but their crown will perhaps be stolen. Me and Ben will be attempting to reclaim that.
Yeah. I've been sharpening my skills.
Got that little whetstone out of your board game knowledge. Yeah. I am one of your hosts. I am Richard Scarsbrook. I am a founder of Chance Encounters. I've been there pretty much since the beginning. And I've been wondering lately if the Hokey Cokey was what it's all about.
Oh, deeper meanings.
And I'm joined with my co-host, Ben.
Hello, I'm Ben. I work with the Yogscast. I stream. I'm a massive nerd and I love board games. And I get my left and right mixed up sometimes and put the wrong foot in.
Oh, no.
That's all about for me.
That's the worst. The worst.
They don't let me do that dance anymore.
No. And the guest of Chance Encounters host, the guru of the episode, is Russ.
Hello, I'm Russell. I absolutely freaking love board games. But I will say this: I will never dance. You'll never see me dancing. So, I've probably never done the Hokey Cokey.
Wait, if your friends don't dance, they're no friends of mine.
Well, I'm here to prove that wrong. So,
well, and on that note, our guest for the episode is none other than Frank.
Hey, I'm Frank West, and I'm a board game designer and publisher based in Bristol. I've been designing board games for about 5 years. I have about 750 board games in my house at the moment, so you could say I'm slightly obsessed, and I'm still learning the difference between my left and my right hand. So I'm not great at dancing, unfortunately.
we'll just mirror that on the video, so we'll take the joke.
But the point is that you're still willing to dance.
I'm still willing. But
Okay,
it
well
may
that's
be on
fine.
The floor.
Yeah. No worries. So some of the games that you're best known for are the Isle of Cats and also City of Kings, Vaterand Gardens. All of them. They're really, really good. So we've been talking a little bit about it. I've known Frank for a little while. Isle of Cats is a fantastic game. You should absolutely check it out. If you basically like a cat-based board game, then it's pretty much the one that's on there. If there was a top 10 list of cat board games, it would be Isle of Cats on the top. So
For sure.
Well,
I mean, the
appreciate that.
the lid's even got a spot for your cat to sit in. That's the most important part.
that's the production quality that we expect from board games.
Has your cat ever sat in it?
I have had it out, but they've largely been upstairs. They're just like, no.
What?
I should probably submit a photo.
Yeah, you have.
That's what we do, right? Everyone submits tweets to you.
So I obviously made the Isle of Cats, and I have multiple copies in my house. They're always left open. I have 2 cats, and in 3 years, I've still yet to get one of them voluntarily go in the lid of my own game.
know.
Every other game, it doesn't matter.
What about cat treats?
They just
No?
they're too smart.
Cats know when you're trying
Yeah.
to make them do something and they are not into that.
No.
Just put cat treats everywhere else other than the box.
I'm sure they do it when I'm sleeping. They're probably just down there like, we finally got in the box.
The
But as soon as he's
forbidden
coming
box.
downstairs, he's coming downstairs. Quick, evacuate.
Well, excellent. So you've come prepared with an abstract and absurd scenario for us today. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
I could. And today is a really good time for this because a few years ago, my partner was at home and she was watching the Jingle Jam. She came running up to me and she's like, I've just learned something outrageous. And I was like, what? And she told me, and it blew my mind. We sat down and we wrote a letter. And just this morning, we got a response to that letter. It was an invitation from Charles and Cynthia to join them at the south of England, where we're going to meet them on a sand-filled beach and play board games. Now, this beach is covered in sand. It's going to be a little bit windy, But Charles and Cynthia are both crab people, and they don't have hands. They've only got claws, and we're going to be playing with them. They can't speak, they can read, but they only communicate by bashing their claws on things and rubbing their body against bits. So I need a 4-player game that we can play with 2 crab people on a beach.
Wow.
I'm thinking how did they write this letter?
They bash things and a friend wrote it for them.
All right, okay.
Because we're good friends. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they had some like audio going on there, and then okay, yeah, perfect.
Well, yeah, crabs are people. That has been
Exactly.
confirmed. How dexterous are these crab people?
So I would say they're going to be able to like pick up a card or a die, but they're probably not going to be able to pick up a handful of things at once. So are they going to be able to hold a hand of cards? Like, I'm not sure. It might be a little bit tricky. So I would say that they're not quite as dexterous as we are. They're a little bit behind. They're good at bashing things.
Okay.
Just thinking like, if they picked up a card, would it not just like slice it in half as well? Like,
Do we need to run some tests to see how
Yeah.
sharp their claws are?
As an aficionado of crab people, I can confirm they keep one claw razor sharp to defend
Right.
themselves, and the other one is blunted for gentle caressing. So
so
as long as they use their blunt claw and not their snipper, it will be absolutely
so it's even more restricted. They can only hold one card.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
with
interesting.
these crabs, I've occasionally seen one where you have like a small arm and then a really big arm. Is that what we've got
like a
going on
fiddler
here?
crab.
It's where they basically skipped arm day for one arm. Gotcha. Okay. Is that what kind of crabs we're dealing with? How sharp are they? Both too sharp? Have we got 2 hands to operate, or is one gonna like destroy?
So I think the one sharp and the one slightly softer. Charles was saying that's how Cynthia's hands are. At
Right.
least. So
Yeah.
I assume that it's going to be the same.
Okay.
Remember, we're at a beach and they're crabs, so they also might be a little bit wet. They have to go back and forward into the water every so often as well. So
Is that a thing?
quite-
I don't know. I
crabs-
don't know anything about
Well,
crabs.
they don't
I
want
mean,
to
we're
dry
looking to
out,
the
I
expert
guess,
here.
right? Like I've never seen a crab out of water for more than a few minutes.
there are some land
True.
crabs, and there are water crabs. Charles and Cynthia are a hybrid where they have to go back into water every so often.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
Just
I
thinking,
did check this with them. It was important.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of internally shuddering at the thought of mixing water and cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, at the cafe we have spills, and it kind of breaks my heart every time someone spills a bit of beer or something on the cards, and
Oh
it's
my
never the
God.
game's never the same afterwards.
What's like the worst like knock spillage event?
It's
cafe?
the worst thing I've ever witnessed, and it's not a spillage, but it breaks my heart. Like when I think about it, one time we had a group, adults. You'd think they would have known better, but they were playing Monopoly. And when
They
they came
should
to
have known better. You're right.
not even
Easily.
not even that. That's not the worst bit. They were playing the game, and as they were packing down the game, I was observing them just because, I was chatting to somebody on the table next to them, and then when it came to folding the board, when they're bored, you must know board games have have a right way to put them back, right? Well, they started to fold it in the wrong way. And when it met resistance, instead of going, oh, wait, that's probably the wrong way to put the board back, they doubled down and crunched it and snapped the board. And I can still, I think the person I was speaking to, I just stopped talking for about 5 seconds, wide mouthed.
They
And
did
I
this
just
in front
lost-
of you.
They did this in front of me. Yeah, it was devastating to say the least. And and then I guess that's the
And then we
point where I
kicked them out of the
realised-
cafe. End of the story.
Does their portrait still hang above the bar? Saying, like,
does.
do not serve this.
Yeah.
If there was to be one of them a chance, it would be for people who do that. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just I still think about it. It was probably a very long time ago now, and I still think about
I could
it.
just feel that,
Yeah.
like, the
It was-
resistance, and then them just being like, "Oh, this is totally normal. Let's just go."
It was the sound effect that went with it as well, and I don't quite remember because I have a blank in my memory after that happened, but I'm pretty sure they didn't question it either. They just went, yeah, okay, back in the game. So yeah, horror stories. Just beware. Please don't be those people. Please.
If you meet resistance when folding a board game, please reconsider your life.
We know there's a trick to putting the boards back. I mean, there's every game that comes with a board. There's never like the perfect way to put it back, but there's you just got to learn. You gotta try the different ways.
I've had one horrible incident in all my years of owning board games at home. And my friend, and it must have been a good 5 years ago that he did it. And my friends, and whenever he comes over, is always like, Have you got the baby bottle ready? Just because there was this one time that we had this game. It was a brand new game from Kickstarter, so you couldn't replace it or anything. Set out and we're playing, and we went to get drinks, and we got a glass of Coke, and I passed it across to the table to him, which was my kind of mistake, and he dropped it. And this was literally the center of the table, and out of sheer panic, he then was like, you could tell that he realized what was about to happen. So his other hand came through to grab it, and the glass shattered into a million pieces in the center of the air, like above the board, and just glass and drink just all fell down. And it was just, a spilled drink you can kind of grab, but this was no more glass. It was a full pint of Coke directly above with glass shards, and I just kind of sat there and I was like, I'm not even going to rush. there is no point. Like, this is
You're just going to
so
get very
far
hot
beyond.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
We've reached the point of no return. What game was it?
It was called Treasure Hunter,
Okay.
which was kind of a card drafting.
Was it Queen's game? Queen Games?
I'm not sure. I don't own it anymore because someone accidentally
Just went in the
ruined
bin.
You're just rubbing salt in the wound there. Oh, was that really unpopular game? Oh, yeah, that's a really good one. If only you'd got to play it.
Was that like your first playthrough as well?
It was, yeah.
Oh, no.
Brand new. So never played that.
Oh, that's upsetting.
I'm thinking of like board games with the best components, because if we're going to have to take this and it's possibly going to get wet and it's going maybe into the sea, like the first thing that hits me is like Wingspan and that quality of cards. Now, I haven't tested it, but I'd be keen to know whether or not
I feel like it might be splash resistant. I'm not sure how far that goes.
crab resistant,
Crab resistant, maybe.
maybe.
I would say not sharp crab
Yeah.
claw resistant, but blunt claw resistant, I would say.
I feel like you have to hold a big hand of cards. I mean, you do have a hand of cards, but I usually play open with Wingspan because there's so little interaction with the other players. I don't care if they know the birds they've got.
Interesting.
I'm not looking at the birds they've got. It doesn't affect my game plan.
And you, I'm always looking at the bit. Ooh, pretty.
Yeah, I know,
Fuck birds!
but I'm not looking at them going, oh, they've got a mockingbird. I see. Oh, that changes what I'm going to do.
Exactly. Well, oh my god. So we have talked about Wingspan before. I think we're in a bit better company here. Ravs might not be around the corner, so we might be safe to have a little bit of a discussion about it. But no, with Wingspan, the quality of stuff is phenomenal, and then there are a few cards that just seem to break the game. But the quality they produce. Is there any other games that you know of that have like pretty quality components?
Stonemaier games, they have got good production quality in my
do.
opinion. They're the ones who made
Yeah.
Wingspan.
Scythe.
That's the first, I think I might have mentioned this before, but it's the first time I picked up a rule book. I went, ooh, this is a really good quality rule book. Like it's like a kind of linen-y, leathery kind of texture. But the other game I've said that had really good production quality was Parks.
Okay.
So it comes with an insert which looks like a log, and it's got the different parts for all the wooden resources, which are also very pretty. And it just everything fits really neatly in the box. That's probably only. There's probably more games. I don't know if anyone else has seen any games.
Well,
that have gone, ooh.
I've got one in mind, but I might save it for my recommendation.
Yeah, I've realized that I've really gone down a bit of a hot topic. Like, hey, let's just try and remove all of the ones that you could possibly talk to.
That's my thing. I've got ideas of good, high-quality games, but I think they're all the answer to this question, so I can't put it out there. My question on Wingspan, though, is will crabs want to play a game about birds that generally do?
Oh, it seems in bad sport, really, isn't it?
But maybe they would, because then they just cut up all the parts. Take that, birds.
Yeah.
All the ones that eat fish.
Thank God for the card claw.
This is a legacy game, right? I'm just going to cut up all of those cards. You're never playing this again.
No gulls allowed.
They, in fact, you have to place them in one of 3 territories, and they'll just be like, we're not going to put anything in the ocean or river, thank you very much.
That's crabland now. Make them their own custom expansion.
I mean, you could probably reskin it to be like crabs that are hybrids, crabs that are water, crabs that are in the on the land.
Yeah.
This is
Crab
great.
claw coming next week.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about like quality. Are there any other things? Like maybe we've talked about cards not being great. Dice would also be perhaps easier to roll.
Yeah, I think crabs could do dice. What do you think, expert on crabs?
Well, you could always get like a dice rolling thing, couldn't you? Like like a cup and a tower, or play aids. Always.
Is it like Ludo that you press the thing in the middle and it goes blunk?
Oh yeah,
Oh, you mean
frustration.
the special edition of
I
Ludo.
love that.
Did anyone else realize that frustration and Ludo I mean, I got there, but I mean, did anyone not? I immediately did not make the link between Ludo and Frustration being the same game because I just thought they were completely different just because of that popping device. I mean, I played them both when I was a kid, and it was probably a long time after that that I actually ever played them again.
Everybody knew.
Yeah.
But I didn't
those
really.
two
I
were
just
the
treated it like,
same
well, sorry,
thing.
isn't sorry a different? Isn't sorry just a fancy version of Ludo with
very
cards?
similar. I can't
Yeah.
remember if the rules are different or not.
Is it everybody just has their own house rules and they're like, no, we're not going to play Ludo today. We're actually playing Frustration. It's the same board, but it's just completely different rules.
Why did I'm just annoyed that they didn't call it Ludo.
Is Ludo one of those?
It was probably a rebrand, right? Like to try and get kids involved.
Probably. It's been a good 30 years since I've probably played any of these games. So I don't think 5-year-old me probably was aware. But
Wait, you're not saying this is a classic you've played in the last few weeks?
No, it's
I should add it to my collection. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I have 751.
But which of the two do you recommend?
Well, I remember like sorry being I think my Canadian friend was determined to get a copy of Sorry for a job that I had before in a board game cafe. Yeah, sorry, Rich.
Stereotype.
It does.
And I think that weirdly I was like, is that because they say sorry a lot, or is it maybe it's the other way around because it's like a traditional Canadian like classic family board game. That's why they say sorry all the time, and it's just kind of subtly snuck their way into the lexicon of Canadians, and that's it.
On
maybe?
the basis
We
that
don't know.
you're
I'm just
rolling
conspiracy
dice,
theory.
though, if you don't have any like natural ability to screw people over, do you have to say sorry? Is it like when you open a door for someone and then, or like you're just like, I'm really sorry, and just you have to apologize for pretty much everything, even if you're not in the fault.
Yeah, I think that you should. Yeah, because you've set someone back and it wasn't your fault and you didn't mean to, so you're sorry. That's
Okay.
absolutely fine. I mean, we're British. We
You're
apologize for
very
everything as well. We're very close to our Canadian cousins. I feel.
In terms of things that British are good for, I always thought we were really good at queuing, and then I went over to Hong Kong, and I was like, they're much better at it than us.
What?
How do they learn from the best? It's an ex-colony. Right? It's good when the apprentice surpasses the master. What more could a teacher ask for?
It's true. It's true. I suppose it's like the ultimate, like, oh, you were very good at like teaching. I don't know where we're going, but there genuinely was just the most amazing experience. And then you're sitting on the train and you're not allowed to drink on the train. And I was just like, wow, everyone's actually keeping to the rules. Unlike the London Underground, it's sheer madness.
Have you been on the quiet carriage on any main rail train network train?
And there's always someone that's
do not listen. People do not listen to that rule.
No.
Like, surely everyone's experienced that.
Of course, you have to scowl at anybody that's on the
Yeah.
phone. You can't say anything. You're just
Dare
like,
you tut?
If you
You a tutter?
that's the ultimate British nation.
That's the most extreme action available to a British person.
You see, queuing is one of like this is going to sound really weird, but one of my favorite holiday moments was because of queuing.
Yeah.
And I was in Italy and we were in Venice, and I was just in my head, I was like, Venice is in Italy, right? I haven't just done that wrong. But yes. And we're waiting for the boat back to the airport, and the boat was running late. And obviously you can only get a boat to the airport from Venice. And there was loads of people and everyone was rushing for their plane. And, we were all kind of standing there and people were crowding up, and we were kind of in this semi-natural kind of queue of, some people queuing, some people kind of trying to cheating. And then the boat turned up. And everyone started moving forwards, apart from this one couple that started barging their way through. And then there was this big, bold Englishman, and he put his hand on the shoulder of this guy, turned him around and said, I'm going to teach you to queue like an Englishman. And then just walked him to the back of the line. It was the funniest moment of my life. And I was like, are they going to fight? Or are they going to say thank you or what? But it was just like the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard anyone say.
The only thing that would have made that story better is if you said, I'm going to teach you to queue like an Englishman. Sorry about this.
Sorry, my apologies.
Excuse me, sir.
I don't mind. I hope you don't mind, but actually, we're just going to head to the back here. That's amazing. Is that also where you met Cynthia on this one as well?
No, that was just simply through. We looked on the internet for crab people wanting friends, and
You're doing a
reached
language
out,
exchange
so
then.
It was like it's kind of like a pen pal kind of thing. It's like, I'm sorry that we kind of didn't reach out before, but we want to connect. We want to make friends, and let us know. I mean, it took them nearly 5 years to respond, so we kind of thought they'd given up, but it turns out they were just learning English. It was a tricky one for them.
And do they have the ability, or is it purely just the ability to translate this?
So they can read,
Yeah.
but otherwise it's just banging claws, rubbing body parts to kind of communicate,
So-
which I'm learning at the moment. I'm not great at it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get it horribly wrong.
I don't suppose you want to show us maybe like hello, like an informal crab greeting at all.
Got to be careful with the microphone because it's that kind of like
It's true.
that long arm and short arm, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's a bit hard.
Nice.
We'll get there.
That for those
perfect-
who are listening on the
gonna
podcast, you just have to imagine it, but it's
It
glorious.
was exactly how you imagined it. I can
Yeah.
assure you.
Perfect demonstration for a podcast for sure.
Visual gag.
Santa's going to walk sideways out of the room.
So we talked a little bit about the water is going to be an issue. We haven't really mentioned much about the sand. Are we going to find a solid rock that we can maybe play on, or are they like, no, we've got to have my legs have to be in sand
It's
situation?
in sand, I'm afraid. Very, very much full sand.
Okay.
Not even a cloth, just
All right.
directly on the sand.
Yeah.
What
It's a crab thing.
what kind of games do you like though?
Do I like?
Yeah.
Oh. See, I'm a big fan of all sorts of games. For me, playing board games is about the experience of the people you're playing with.
Mhm.
So, if you're playing with a big group, then social deduction games can be a lot of fun. If you're playing just with your partner, then something maybe lighter and a little bit less competitive can be quite fun. But it really does mix. And when it comes to crab people, honestly, I'm at a loss, which is why I came here for your
True.
advice. It's a tricky one.
we are the experts, and we've got our crab people extraordinaire. So you picked a the right group for this. I'm not gonna lie.
Our powers combine. Have you got like any particular like turn-ons or turn-offs of board games? Have you got like settings, themes, or mechanics that you love, or you just really don't want to?
So personally, I hate dice.
Mhm.
I'm just not a fan of
Mhm.
chucking things and hoping for the best. It just, that does make it a little bit tricky. I can play dice games, but it's just not my kind of thing. I kind of like cooperative games sometimes.
Yeah.
Not hidden role stuff, but like full-on team.
Mhm.
If I want a hidden role, then we're probably going to play a competitive game because let's just be full competitive. But generally speaking, no dice. That's my one rule.
I as soon as you said that, the first thing that springs to mind was food chain magnet, and I'm like, that might be in poor taste.
Especially if there's seafood restaurants in there, right?
Exactly. Like, maybe not. I mean, on that note, though, if we were going to talk about the sea people, are they ambassadors of any kind? Are we going to upset sea people if there's a game that and it your relationship starts to fray as a result of this? Have we got the world at stake?
I think that my understanding is they want to take this back for the Crab Clam Olympics.
Okay.
So, they may have to play it with clam people when they get back.
What?
Other sea creatures, not so worried about. But the crabs and the clams are the main two.
Does that mean we want a game that crabs are good at but clams aren't, to give them a head start?
I would
Was that
probably
unfair?
guess that clams are going to struggle to play most games because they're kind of just one claw and they can't.
You
see
can
when
hold
they're
the
doing
card.
it,
You're
but-
fine.
Yeah, but
Just hold that one
they're holding it, and they're just like, "What's the card? I don't know. I'm gonna have to open again. Like, I don't remember what it was." Do clams have memories? That's the real question. How long are they?
I mean, up until today, I didn't really think of crabs as board game players. So,
Well, I mean that was definitely
wow.
on you. We've
Yeah.
thought about this before.
yeah. I mean, I'm going to say the audience side with me on this.
You've obviously never been under the sea. A lot of stuff happens down there.
Have you not seen The Little Mermaid?
Yes. But I didn't really consider that an instructional video for board game playing.
It was actually
with
from the
secret-
deleted scenes when
Oh.
Ariel. Yeah. Okay, so the other point you've just mentioned then is the Clam Olympics. So are we now having to create a board game that works fully underwater, or are they going to be able to reach the outdoors on the beach?
No, they've got bubbles of dryness under the
Okay.
water, and they might come up to the beach. Different events take place in different places.
Yep.
I haven't actually been invited to the stadiums yet,
Yeah.
so I've not seen it.
There's
but
no
I've
human
heard
spectators
there's a
at the
good-
moment.
No, not currently. But I'm hoping to get there. As a representative, and I'll bring you guys along.
Oh,
Hopefully,
beautiful.
if we can.
I just hope that it's the same physics as SpongeBob underwater. Like, physics doesn't matter. Water doesn't matter.
And you can get some good burgers.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got a few. Is there anything else? Do these crab people have they played any board games previously, or is this going to be a completely new concept to them?
So this is the challenge, because they were saying to me, like, they know what board games are, but they're crab board games. And I've not experienced any of those. So, I mean, it could be completely different.
Yeah.
Like, technically, they said they've got the concept of it, but could be different.
It's just like where they've heard one of these wondrous things and they're just like, I just want to experience it for myself. And we're doing that same thing. It's like when you've heard about like a really amazing sweet treat in, I don't know, Japan or something, and we're just going to be like, that sounds amazing. How do I get it?
Yeah. I think we're going to have to be careful though, because I feel like they're going to form all of their like evaluations on our culture and as a people on this. This is their first impression. Impressions count.
So does it want to be educational? Does
So
it want to
Game
be
of
thematically
Thrones.
tied?
Oh, yuck. Edutainment.
Oh, no.
A terrible first impression.
Okay, so we've got to be making sure that maybe they leave the game with some good feelings, even if they lose. That there's still a sense of maybe winning, or that they want to play the game at least again. If it's like pure, Frank just stabbed me in the back, then maybe they've had enough of that, the human relationships of them taking advantage, let's say, of the crab people.
They start sharpening the second claw.
Whoa! Oh yeah. They're like, this represented peace. Not anymore!
And some crabs do have thousands of children.
Oh no.
Which is like, I don't know if we needed to play for 1,000 players,
Yeah.
but maybe 2-player games aren't going to be their cup of tea either.
Oh no. I'm also wondering about like if they're basically all like content creators or like they have so many followers at that point. They've got 1,000 people that they can just sway with their opinion.
I think that's just a great idea, isn't it? If you're trying to build up a community as a content creator, and like we haven't gone down, just give birth to them room.
That was always my plan with
crap.
World of Warcraft, was have 38 kids and then just do a 40-man raid with my family, not have to worry about anyone else. If you want dinner, you will be at Molten Core at 7 p.m.
Oh, wow. Don't you dare roll need on that loot. You are out of the family.
Oh my god. That would be like the atrocity. It'd be again putting them up on the board, being like, this one's getting no food for a week. They need food apparently. They're just greedy.
Take those boots and I'll take your trainers away.
Oh yeah, as someone with a child, I can confirm it's not a cost-effective method of promoting your own Kickstarter.
Oh, no.
How long do we want this? Like this meeting, this gaming session, like roughly how long? Is there like a time limit, or we just
Till high tide, I guess.
yeah.
It's true.
But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, maybe it's a game that we're going to have to move up and down the beach as the water kind of comes up and down. I mean, they've invited us over for the day. It's going to take us a couple of hours to drive there. Yeah, I'm not a morning person, so I'll probably get up at like 2. But you can imagine we'll be there from like 11 till maybe 6 or 7. I mean, we're in the UK, so sunsets at 3 in the afternoon on most days. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking the high tide. The sensible option would, of course, just be to play outside of the tide range. But okay, I like that.
But
It's
then
just
they're going to
like,
be
no,
too far from the
make
water and dry
That's
up.
it. That's it. That's
Yeah.
what I wasn't thinking of. Okay.
See,
That
I
thing
thought
moves
this
quick.
out considerably.
Yeah, absolutely. This is quality scenario situations.
I'm starting to ruminate about some games,
Yeah, I've
but
got 2 vastly different ideas. One very simple and one overly complicated. One to pick between.
I wonder what the translation time would be from English, or can they
can
understand
understand, I think.
speech?
Yeah,
Mhm.
You said
Yeah.
they
They just
read.
can't speak it back.
They just can't
Yeah.
speak it back. So any questions would have to be kind of long drawn out situations.
the teach would have to be so good. Like there would be no question. Any questions? Like and just thrashing around. Good. Okay. Just carry on.
I guess at that point, would you just end up getting like a Rodney Smith video out and just being like, "Here you go." So we're now limited to anything that what your players have done.
I think if the primo of board game teaching is Rodney Smith, isn't it? So I think you could rely on him to do a good job. So maybe a game that he has done a video for. Maybe that's what we're looking at.
I honestly don't know the entire category of that one. I know he did one for Isle of Cats.
He
as
did,
well, right?
yeah.
So there you go. If you want to know a bit more about Isle of Cats and how to play it, then go and check out that video.
I should have come here and just said a game for cat lovers that involves placing pieces. Just completely set this up.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Who wants to win, by the way?
So on that note, I mean, do crabs know too much about the human situation, like what's going on? Do they understand that cats exist? Are they any? What were they aware of? Or just purely sea-based stuff and anything you've mentioned in your letters?
Well, my understanding is there's thousands of different species of crabs.
Yep.
In my head, I think it's maybe like 4,500, but don't
Wow.
hold
Whoa.
me on that. So there's a lot of different ones, and they live in different countries. They live some underwater, some on land. Some are huge, some are tiny. So my understanding is they've got lots of different societies that are familiar with different parts of humanity, and they've traveled and seen different things, and they obviously have like crab phones, so they ring each other up and chat in the crab internet, so they do kind of pass this information around. So I imagine they're fairly switched on.
So crab phones. Okay.
With big buttons that they bash.
Okay. How do they speak? Can they speak in crab?
They rub it on their body.
Oh my gosh.
It's all kind of the vibrations of parts of their body kind of.
I mean, if most of it is like noise based, that's perfect for a phone, right? It's still audio.
They
Yeah.
can click, they can clack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking Morse code.
Basically.
Then-
It's advanced Morse code.
yeah.
I feel like if they're sharing all this knowledge around, do they have a crab equivalent of like the Encyclopedia Britannica? Did they have crab salesmen going
Clickopedia.
around being like, hey, do you want to buy this entire collection about the human nature?
Maybe. I've not asked them, so
Okay.
that's
I mean,
one I don't know.
it's the first question I probably would have asked them.
What's your encyclopedia situation?
Yeah. How much is actually in there, and can I read it, please? And how did you make this underwater? I'm pretty impressed with the production process here. What's going on?
How many pencils did you cut in half whilst writing?
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so we're getting good. Is there any other questions that we've got to go with? Anything that we need to know?
I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna struggle with this one. I'm not gonna lie.
So I guess to sum up, we've got 4 players. So there's going to be 2 crab people and 2 humans, non-crab people, I guess we say. We've got it's potentially the board might have to move unless it's a very quick game because we've got to worry about the tide. It's going to be based on sand. There is a watery element situation, so we might need them to be of decent enough quality to at least be splash resistant, let's say. We have to be worried about the ability, one-handed would be preferable, or one claw. Otherwise, if there needs anything to be cut up, then we're good. We're golden on that one. So if you do recommend a legacy game, then they've already got an advantage on that. They love to be included, I assume. Is there anything else that we need to add to that?
Just the potential for playing for clams later on.
Okay, so that's like the bonus points.
That's the
Like if you
bonus
really
points.
want to win,
Yeah.
then involve the clams.
And to be clear, I've been it's strictly enforced. Clams are not designed just to hold cards. They are not card holders.
Yep.
They're playing the game.
Yep.
They are not accessories to the game. No rolling dice in the clams or anything like that.
But they're so well suited to it.
Oh my god.
Didn't want to be a dice roller. Why are you shaped like one?
That's just the way that like the crabs get a psychological edge on it. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've just brought the dice tray." No, Frank! Oh my goodness. All right, so I think we're time for some recommendations. So does anybody eager to go first with their recommendation?
Yeah, I can go.
All right.
I've got my recommendation is a game called Too Many Bones, which is a up to 4-player cooperative game. It ticks those boxes pretty well. Now, the best thing about this game in this scenario is that it's the only game I've ever heard described to me as a game you can play underwater. Every single component is completely waterproof. Even the playmats are made of some kind of like acrylic material.
Wow.
It's the highest production quality I've ever seen in a game personally.
They're basically the same material as mouse mats. They're very similar, but like a waterproof kind of variant.
Yeah,
of it.
exactly. Like the cards are thinner than that, but the playmats are all like a mouse mat.
Is
The
that like
cards are like a
neoprene?
sheet of plastic.
Do they call them neoprene? Sorry, I just
Oh yeah, neoprene's like the mouse mat
Yeah,
material. That's right. And all the tokens are effectively like poker chips. But again, really nice quality. Everything's all polished and shiny and lovely to touch, and you can literally spend a lot of time just fiddling with it rather than actually playing the game. It's just It's just really nice. It's really heavy as well. It's like, yikes, that is a heavy game. But essentially what the game involves is it's like an RPG adventure. Every player is picks a class. There's maybe 8, 9 classes to pick from. I can't remember exactly. And you all work together to work your way through this adventure and defeat a big boss at the end. And you can carry on playing after that and do multiple adventures. So this could last all day, or it could last an hour or two, depending how long you guys wanted to play. But the core mechanic, I'm a bit wary of suggesting, because I know you said you hated dice.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
It's a dice building game. You build a pool of dice, a bit like a deck building game. The reason I'm still going to power on and suggest it is because it's not so much like a roll the dice and see how many successes you get. It's more of you roll the dice and then it's more of a resource management kind of situation. There are no failures on the dice. The only thing that does nothing is the bones symbol, hence the name Too Many Bones. Like, you could roll too many bones and then, I didn't get to do anything. But every time you roll a failure or a bone, you move up on a track. And then eventually you can cash those in for a big reward. But you need a lot of them before you get that payoff. So even the failures and the bad luck eventually swings back around again, and then you get that big payoff later on. So I found it quite satisfying, because although you don't obviously always get exactly the right combinations of things you want, you never feel like you've got a terrible roll that's just, I got unlucky and I've done nothing, or I got super lucky and just won because I got super lucky. It's really just about picking the right dice that you want. You pick different skill dice with different sides on. So you start building and developing and leveling up your character into certain skills. If you want to do a lot of healing, when you level up, you add the healing dice to your pool. And then you are going to roll more healing things, because that's what's on those dice. So although I've broken the only thing you said you didn't want, I feel like it's different enough. It doesn't have those highs and low spikes of chance. It's more about just it's just some variation every turn and picking, okay, well, these are my resources I have to work with this turn. How am I going to use them most effectively? I really enjoyed it, and the build quality alone is just enough to say, you could literally play this game underwater and it wouldn't ruin a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fantastically made game. I think it might have been Shut Up and Sit Down, I think maybe did a video where they literally kind of went out in the rain and kind of put it on the floor and were just demonstrating how proper kind of waterproof it was. And it's so luxuriously made. The company Chip Theory, their games are so beautiful. You were saying earlier about Stonemaier and Wingspan and stuff, and Chip Theory, I would say, is definitely up there on that quality side.
I've never seen, when I first played Wingspan, that was the highest production quality I'd ever seen in a game. Then when I played Too Many Bones, I was like, that's another
blown out the water.
I've never seen anything close to that.
One of the things with Too Many Bones and Chip Theory in general is that they push the quality and that uniqueness so much that they actually don't sell their games in retail. You can only buy them directly because they don't have enough profit off a game to be able to sell them.
They can't split their margin
and
with
they
retailers.
really want that quality so much that they've made that kind of decision that it's always going to be direct so we can maintain it. So they're that focused on it being really, really high quality.
Their Kickstarters do quite well, and I know yours did. Is they're like some kind of secret Kickstarter millionaires kind of club that exists.
Yeah, you get invited to the WhatsApp group, I think, when you hit your first million on Kickstarter.
I wish.
So that's my recommendation.
No, I think it's a strong start, and possibly, as you've said, the best in terms of quality that we're probably going to have of any of these recommendations. Is a very good one.
I mean, I would try and argue, but it's true.
Yeah, go for it, Russ. What are you gonna...
Well, you kind of defeated my point, because I was going to say I didn't know of any truly waterproof games, which is why I've picked one which isn't waterproof. Thanks, Ben. So my thinking was a game that isn't going to take too long to play, because you said we don't have to move the game up and down, and like I said, I don't think there's any. Well, I didn't think there was any truly waterproof games, so I just picked one which I thought was good quality and short. So if get the splash on it, it's probably going to be fine. There's no cards in this game. There's tiles. There's literally just tiles and some pieces which you move around. The game's called Magic Maze. It's a cooperative game. The setup or the theme of the game is that you're cooperatively playing these 4 kind of tropes from fantasy. You've got a ranged like an archer, a magician, a warrior, and a dwarf. And they have found themselves in a shopping mall, which I you know, it's been a long time. I think it's closed shopping mall, and they've lost their weapons somewhere in this shopping mall. So they're in a frantic race to find their magic weapons and escape from the mall before it closes. So you've got a limited amount of time. And yeah, it's a really easy to learn game, but it's kind of frustrating in a good way. I like to call it one of those like good stressful games. So what happens is you've got just a tile and you've got the 4 pieces on it. But instead of like normal games controlling a type of character, in this game, you control certain actions. So, for example, one player might be in control of moving any pieces they want north towards the top. And other characters will have like south and east and west. But there's also other actions you can do. You can teleport. So there'll be one player, who's able to teleport to these teleport locations around the board. There's also another character that can go up or down escalators. So everybody basically controls a certain type of action, but they can use any of the characters to do that. The tricky part of this game, where I think it will work very well for crab people who cannot speak, is it is a limited communication game. You are not allowed to speak for the majority of the game. And in fact, you don't have to speak during any part of the game. Instead, the only means of communication is this giant red pawn, which essentially you can place in front of a player to tell them that they need to do something, but you cannot tell them what. I think this actually been mentioned possibly on the podcast before. And it is one of the most frustrating pieces that probably exist in board games, because if you play with certain players, they will very much just slam it down repeatedly in front of a player, causing some sort of stress to that player, because they might see that they have to do something but not know what. So yeah, I think the overall reason I picked this game is because it is limited communication. It doesn't require any players to communicate. There is like a short time frame for this game, which is like 15 minutes maximum. And also the only things that the crab people have to do is to move pieces, one piece at a time, which they'd be more than capable of doing with their non-razor sharp claw, which is why I thought it would be good. And, you know, gets a bit of water on it, I'm sure I'll be fine.
I love the part that where in my introduction I said I didn't know the difference between right and left, and you've got a game where literally you're just having to move right or left. So,
however, the very good news about that is each player has a tile in front of them which shows you the direction they can move it, so you don't even have to remember left or right. It's Frank proof, exactly. So hopefully that one will kind of tick a lot of the boxes. I don't know.
My question would be, under sheer pressure of this, would a crab remember to use their right or their left? They'd be like, oh, it's a big arm. Oh no, I've just destroyed the piece.
I mean that could be something. But I think
I feel like we
ultimately
might have to edit this out. That might be offensive to crab people. I mean, they're very capable people.
True.
That can
know
use
when
their
to
claws.
use which
you know?
claw.
But if you were to tell me whether, you know, we can only use our right hand and I wasn't, you know, tied behind my back, there may be a situation where I'd use my left hand.
I mean, I think as Frank said, I think, you know, you're being very cruel about the intelligence of crab people by insinuating they couldn't tell. And also, you know, Ben, are crab people good under pressure? Is that a known factor to them?
Well, they definitely don't crack under pressure. Like cracking.
Well, I mean, it's steaming the pressure. I just think when you're saying about keeping an arm behind their back, and the one thing we know about crabs is how to tie up their claws. That's not going to be a problem at all.
You know, we've got plenty of rubber bands at
rubber bands.
Chance. Yeah. We've got a whole...
Don't worry, Charles. This is not going where you think it is.
So mean. Can you just imagine them being there and you're just like, okay, so first of all, we're just going to like essentially render you unable to defend yourself. And then we're going to play a game and you may or may not. Oh, God.
I don't know. I'd rather trust the crab people.
Can you imagine if I, just before we started playing a game, I was like, wait, now put these mittens on. You're not to be trusted.
I know, right? I'd just be like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I've ruined your board game before. Or you just like,
drink from this straw and now give it back.
It's just a sippy cup for you. Oh, thanks. Just a real adult, just in case.
There is also another thing I kind of should mention about this game, which is a good thing. It comes with modular elements. So the way that you play the game initially is that you add difficulty as you go. So if you complete a scenario, you can add an extra step and make it a little bit more difficult. And the game also has an expansion called Maximum Security, which also adds a bunch more modules which can make it easier or harder. So you can basically fine-tune the game to the difficulty of the group.
I like that a lot.
Which is really cool. And also, this is, how we've probably mentioned before on Hit the Podcast, so even if you haven't, how nothing better than a base game that fits all of the expansions into the base game after it's done. This has the reverse. The expansion is a smaller box, and you can fit the entire of the base game and the expansion in the smaller expansion box, which is just a very weird thing. So actually, it makes it even more easier to store, which I definitely think should give it +3 points in the choosing.
I'm also wondering, because the only way that you communicate is by slamming quite aggressively.
You can just place it.
You could do, but if the crab people are already using the vibrations and like the clack,
sand
are they
will
going to get a
muffle it.
bit...
They
It's a
might
sand.
cheat. Charles and Cynthia might be talking to each other with the vibrations of the slamming.
Then the sand, even with the sand, I feel like the sand is a good muffling device.
True.
Like,
But also with Frank's taking his Duolingo crab person language, maybe he'd be able to see it and be like, "Hey guys, there's no communication here."
This is where the rubber bands come out.
Yes.
Behave, Charles.
I'm warning you. And so it plays up to 8 people. This one, right? So it's quite a good one for multiple.
Yeah.
And how do you feel it works on the Clam front?
they can just sit and watch.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I don't know what we didn't discuss the semantics of how we didn't discuss the semantics of how clams what they can and can't do. So I didn't cater it towards them. I feel like this is the kind of game where you want to make a really good impression with the crab people, and then afterwards it's the kind of game that probably can just adapt in some way to make it playable for clams. But we didn't discuss that, so I feel like I shouldn't be penalized.
It's because we thought that bit was obvious. The crabs are the hard part. Clams, obviously know how clams work.
I think the clams can roll dice. I think we can just go, okay, time for your go in too many bones, Mr. Clam, and just put the dice in him, and then he'll just spit them out.
I feel like they just do this, wouldn't they? And this is not going to work on the podcast, but they just
they shake themselves up.
Yeah,
and then they just
shake
spit
their
the
head
dice
and then
out.
just spit the dice out. Yeah.
But with too many bones, because it's waterproof and you're underwater, they just get washed as soon as they come back out.
Exactly. It's like
it's hygiene for.
Okay, so I think we'll go on to the third recommendation, which is mine. Now, mine comes with a lovely trip, because if we're gonna start with, we're talking crabs and the clam situation going on. We're talking about specifically where you're going to be doing it. I have a recommendation that is based in a city around a city called Santorini. So we're talking lovely weather. We're talking it's right next to the sea. We're talking it's beautiful to look at, and it gets you a trip as well. So you could take your clam friends over there, and then you could have this game in the best of luxury situations where you're just it's going to be great for diplomacy. So I really think
crab passports.
Exactly. I assume they have their own way of traveling under the sea. So this one is a game it has mainly plastic parts. It has pretty much a single cardboard board, I guess, for want of a better word, that you place on the table. It has a little bit of plastic to kind of raise it off the actual table, as it were. So that gives you a little bit of balance. You can use that to make sure that you've got the perfectly level board on the sand. And then what will happen is you're trying to place separate pieces of building on the board, and the idea is that you're trying to move your character up to the 3rd level, and if you manage to get that, then you win. So it's a 2 to 4 player game. It looks really pretty. It's quite striking when it's on the table as itself. The plastic pieces mean that by and large, they should be resistant to a soft crab grip. So what will happen is, as you're moving around, you're trying to get to the top, you'll be doing one of two actions. You'll be doing a build action, and then you'll be doing a move action, all the while trying to steer yourself so you get into the position where you'll get to move on to that third level before your opponent. And it has these... It caps it off with those very vibrant, like blue domes at the top. And if the dome gets placed, then you can't go up to that level. So it's. I think it's perfect. I think it's quite a quick game. You can play multiple ones, and then if you wanted to add some extra kind of complication to it, there are also these cards that represent gods. And then you'd be able to add those in, and it kind of mixes up the gameplay quite a lot. But the base game is quite easy to understand. It looks good as a first board game for the crab people. Then we want to make sure that it looks neat, and so I think it's a good recommendation.
The board game teacher in me is just gonna have to correct that. It's a move then a build action.
Oh my god!
I'm sorry. They has two things, and I said them wrong. I apologize. I'll take one of my board game cards.
It wasn't bad. You did say that you do both of them, and that's technically right. But you do the move, then you do the build.
Okay.
Any Santorini fans, of which I imagine there are many out there, will be really thankful I mentioned that. I'm sure.
That's why you're head of games.
Exactly. Even surpassing me. Once again, the master has surpassed. Wait, the other way around. The apprentice has surpassed the master.
I was also going to say, what's it called again?
Santorini?
Not Santorini.
Oh!
I've been thinking about that for ages. I'm like, I want to make sure.
Fun fact for you. How many seas are there in the world?
Well, they say the 7 seas, but now I feel like
there's
that's
a joke
not
coming.
true.
There's a joke coming.
There's one sea. It's all connected.
Oh my god.
Well, that was a QI thing, so I'm assuming that's right.
Wait,
they must have fact checked it for us.
We need that big alarm sound.
Wow, wow,
See, the problem that's coming to my head is you said that you build up blocks, right?
Yeah.
And you take these blocks, and you've got these cube-shaped pieces that their claws are grabbing and stacking up to 3 high, which sounds totally viable. But then you said they have to grab a sphere or a dome, a half circle, and put that on top. And wouldn't it just keep sliding out? Wouldn't it just, as they close their claw, wouldn't it just drop down? Would they be able to do that?
I did not think about this.
I mean,
yes, of course they can. I mean, they pick up rocks and such. They're definitely capable. They could probably pick it underneath, like it has a lip underneath, so they could probably place it down. Admittedly, that angle would be a bit awkward. I'm not gonna lie, but it's definitely. I for one don't underestimate the athletic ability and dexterity of crab people.
I'm sorry. What was that you were saying when I picked my game again? How they might pick the wrong claw or something.
There is
like
absolutely no record of that.
All right, it's going to breeze past that.
There's no way of checking.
No.
Well,
We'll never know what was said.
What?
there was so I love that game, but my thing, and even in the cafe, I will never recommend it other than a 2-player game, because I just feel like it doesn't add to the game adding extra players. I think it's a perfect 2-player game. So I might be in the minority here, but I genuinely think as a 3 and 4-player game, it doesn't feel as good. I feel like it's definitely a 2-player only game for me personally. But it's a really great 2-player game.
I've played a bunch of games that say they're for more people, but clearly they're a 2-player game that they just thought, well, if we say it's for 4 players, we can sell more copies.
I actually think it's the other way around. That I find that more common. Like a lot of games will say we're a 2 to 5-player game, but if you play the 2-player version of it, it's never as good. It's a very different game. Yeah, there's usually some kind of third, fake player that they've added, or they've drastically changed the rules to accommodate 2 players because they're trying to sell more.
That's one of the first things I check on Board Game Geek.
Yeah,
the best with thing, because
it's such an important stat. Yeah, it's so useful to check.
Praise that like element of the Board Game Geek website, because that has saved me on many occasions.
I think Russ, Game Master, let's go back and forth a little bit on this game, right? So
yeah, I quite like the idea that it would be for 2 teams in this respect, because the point is we're talking about ease of learning, so you can have multiple people who don't necessarily know the game as well, and experienced people. You can split those up. And equally, we actually do have crab people and we have humans. So there's already 2 teams that we could potentially use.
I think
So
we're
we're
a mix
more-
of teams, though, right?
We're,
Yeah.
playing
Integration.
we're playing a team-based game with people who can't talk.
Which is totally fine.
Okay.
They could just point.
Yeah, I mean, like we definitely have that situation. But the other thing is that within clams, and when we're talking about them and crabs, we do actually have a perfect scenario for the Olympics there. There's got to be a crab Olympics. Anyway, there's got to be a perfect situation there where they've got 2 teams already. So you're already working for that competitive nature, and you're not, which one's going to win? It's, the crab's going to win, or the clam's going to win. So I think that's also pretty good there.
It sounds good until you try to imagine a clam playing that game.
Oh, it'd be fine, 100%.
I think this podcast is really showcasing Rich's salesman skills. Right here.
Yeah, and his very high opinion of clams.
You just see one clam at the back doing the talking, whilst the other clam slowly opening and pushing the block up higher and higher as the third
Exactly.
clam is pushing it forward onto the tower. It's like, higher, go! It's like,
I mean, they've got some situation for all the clam structures that they've been building, right? So they definitely have the ability to manage to play this board game. I'm sure of it.
okay.
And also, go Clam President, way when they take over the world.
Everyone, welcome our new crab overlords.
What do we-
Welcome!
What do we think about the pun Clawlympics?
Olympics.
It's not
It's
great.
closer than whatever I was trying to pronounce.
My best get was just crab licks, which
Ooh.
is kind of right
Sounds
and also
like-
kind of
Yeah.
horrendous.
You're
Sound-
less likely to be sued with that one, because the
Sure.
Olympic Committee fairly litigious over their
Oh.
branding.
It will get in trouble from the IOC.
Oh.
Spelled
Oh,
I get it. I
that's
get it.
yeah, I get
There
that.
we go. We got a good pun in. All right.
It took a few attempts, but we were there. Excellent. So, is there any queries or questions you had about those? Obviously, how amazing Santorini was. Do you want to just reassert how cool it is as a game? Do you have anything?
I mean, obviously we've asked a few questions, you've kind of suggested them. I do think that all 3 of them are fantastic games. Outside of the situation, they're all great games.
Yep.
I'm happy to play at any time. I've played them all multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
and they are all fantastic. But which one is right for this situation? And that's it's a bit tough to say.
Yep. So you're gonna get your adjudicating panel out. You're gonna start writing them down. You make sure you've got all your points sorted. And do you have a clear winner? Do you have a winner? Was it close?
I think it was. It's one of those things where it's a last minute decision.
Mm.
But
Ooh.
I don't think with Santorini that the dexterity stacking side of it is very practical, because all I can think in my head is you've got like an outside circle of towers, and then you're trying to build one in the middle, and unfortunately this large crab claw trying to get down, and they don't have that kind of versatility that we have.
It may have been an element I overlooked slightly.
And
I guess we'll just have to try it out one day, and then we'll feedback the results.
Right, we'll launch an appeals process.
Yeah.
Once you've done experimentation in the field.
Exactly.
We'll do a redo in like season 3.
Yeah. By the way, Richard here from the future. It actually worked.
Here's my
Overlay.
video of crab playing Santorini. I
just
spent
with
years
string
trying-
hanging above.
An octopus, though, that would be a perfect game for an octopus.
That
I
would be
think.
a perfect game.
like
Oh.
very dexterous, like
Sadly, we have no Yogscast memes about octopus being people.
Sorry.
Sorry.
They started here.
But yeah, so it was close, but that just puts it out for me, unfortunately.
Just slightly. Okay.
And then we've got Magic Maze and Too Many Bones. And
Mm.
again, both fantastic options. Despite the dice, despite breaking the one rule, that is one of the few games where you can break that rule. But the thing in my head is the amount of pieces.
Mm.
The Too Many Bones is like this adventure where you're telling the story and you're enjoying that journey. And we can get past the communication, but setting it out on the beach with all of those pieces and slowly having to move them back and forward throughout the day as you play through 3 or 4 hours of a session, it just becomes too much. Whilst with Magic Maze, it's 15 minutes. And then you can move and do the next campaign level, and then 15 minutes and move to do the next one.
It's even less
And
than that
it's-
if you're bad at it.
Yeah. And it's just this perfect thing. And you can just see them moving back and forwards up the beach. Just lots, but even though it's quick, because of the different levels, it's not the same game each time. So it's going to take it for me.
Oh, thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Well done, Russ.
I'll take it. Thanks, Frank.
Okay, well, there we have it. So we have Russ winning with a narrow margin over Santorini and Too Many Bones.
Narrower over some than others.
But no, that's an excellent game. I do enjoy playing that game. I'd say I play it with a certain group of people. I
Yeah.
wouldn't play it with absolutely everyone. If nothing else, because it's co-op, and I tend to prefer competitive. But it is fantastic, and I think it will do wonders for the crab diplomacy.
I hope so. There's a lot riding on this.
We can teach them how shopping works as well at the same
Yeah.
time, which is quite
Or,
handy.
or shoplifting.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? And we also have teleportation. I don't even know how this got in here as well.
Fear us, crabs. Fear our teleportation.
But I think with that, that's all of it for us here at the podcast. If you are watching on the YouTube, please consider going over to your trusty audio version. If you fancy you're around, can't spend all the time watching that YouTube video, then please consider.
We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast.
Exactly.
Please go there and leave us a 5-star review.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
No other reviews are accepted.
Yeah, otherwise we'll
Don't
get,
even try.
we'll get the crab people around to make sure that that's a 5-star. But we have been joined by the wonderful Frank today. Where can people find you?
Thanks for having me on. You can find me online as City of Games HQ. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and whatever else exists out there under that handle. And always happy to chat, talk about games, teach games, come and play games. I'm in Bristol. Say hello. if you see me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and that's it for us today. So thank you very much. And
Thank you.
goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.